Welcome to our Wednesday Nugget. We're glad to have you here. And I want to talk to you for a few moments on a simple subject of being thrown into the deep. Being thrown into the deep. When I was about 8 years old, we were living in an apartment complex, and we were running alongside the swimming pool. And my older brother grabbed me and he tossed me into the deep end of the pool. At the time, I could not swim. And when he tossed me into the deep end of the pool, I panicked. Felt like I was sinking. And all I could do was, even in the midst of water, was cry and start swinging my arms to try and survive, because I thought I was going to drown. And I remember looking back at my brother, and I'm saying these words to him: I'm going to tell mama, I'm going to tell mama. I'm going to tell mama you threw me in the deep and you tried to drown me. I'm going to tell mama, I'm going to tell mama. And believe it or not, even in the wetness of the water, I felt tears coming down my face. And so as I look back at my brother, he looked at me and he says, well, what are you going to tell her? I said, what do you mean? I'm going to tell her you tried to drown me. He says, what are you going to tell her? That I threw you into the deep? And then are you going to also tell her that while you were in the deep, you swam all the way over to the other side? And instantly, I started thinking, wait a minute, I did swim over to the other side. Wow. And a lot of times being thrown into the deep can be really scary. We're used to shallow things when we can see the bottom. You see, when before I was playing swimming, meaning that I like to be in the shallow, the 1 foot, 2 foot water, not above my head, and I was faking it. Because while my arms on top of the water was doing this, down below, my feet were simply walking on the bottom, pretending as though I was swimming. And that's what happens a lot of times. We pretend because we want to be in the water. We're afraid of the deep, and we pretend as though we know exactly what we are doing. That's how it is in life. Sometimes we want to swim, but we want to swim on our terms. And we want to swim the way we want to swim, even if our swim is not real. We want to give an illusion that what we're doing is real. You see, we want to live life in the shallow waters because we think there's safety in the shallow waters. But how many of us know that there are great, great things in the deep? There's more life, actually, in the deep. But we prefer, of course, to stay in the shallow and splash around and make it appear that we're really doing some things. Yeah, so we're going to go and tell mama because what brother has done. Sometimes the one who throws you in the deep knows very well what your capabilities are and what you're able to do. That's the way it is with God. Sometimes he throws us into the deep and we panic and we're scared and we're flapping and we're crying. And the whole time, the one who threw us in the deep knows exactly what we're able to do. We'll never learn how to swim, survive, as long as we're in the shallow waters, pretending as though we're swimming. So my brother threw me into the deep because he knew what was in me, even when I didn't know what was in me. In the midst of crying, in the midst of panic, in the midst of thinking that I was drowning, in the midst of couldn't wait to tell my mother, I actually swam over to the other side. And that's where God has a lot of us today. He's thrown us into the deep because he knows you know how to make it over to the other side. So what took place later that day? I couldn't wait to tell mama what happened. Yeah, he threw me into the deep, but I didn't tell her so much that he threw me into the deep to make him look bad. I told him how he threw me into the deep and how I began swimming. You see, that whole rest of the day, I realized that I could swim. So immediately after I said, I'm going to tell mama, while I was crying, the tears dried up. So not only did I swim in the shallow waters, now I was able to swim in the deep waters without any fear. That's what God wants to bring us. And he wants to put us into some deep situations. And he knows how to make sure, because he's there watching over us every stroke of the way. God knows he can take care of us at any moment and any time, but he wants us to become better swimmers in life. May God bless you and may God keep you. And we'll see you again on another Wednesday Nugget.